All right, so this last video for chapter 1, this last lecture that I'm going to put up here, is going to talk about the last couple slides in the chapter 1 PowerPoints. Now, we talked about slide 11, which was part of your balance sheet, which I will not go into this slide right away. I want to do the last 5 or 6 slides, which will go pretty quickly, which will then lead me into the introduction of your homework. So if you take a look at slide 12, it talks about the statement of cash flows. I'm not going to ask you guys to really know much about the statement of cash flows because we don't prepare that in this statement, in this class. We prepare that in the managerial accounting, which is your next semester class if you are following through. So, I mean, you can read it if you like to, but I really want to stress 13, 14, and so on. So if you go to 13, it says the interrelations among financial statements. We've already spoke about these things. This is the important part of why we prepare the income statement first, then we do our statement of retained earnings, and then last and not least, we go into our, balance sheet. Okay, the net income or net loss on the balance sheet or on the income statement then gets reported on the statement of retained earnings. So you cannot do your statement of retained earnings without preparing your income statement. The next thing that happens, as you know, is that your ending retained earnings balance ends up being transferred to your balance sheet. So you can't do your balance sheet if you haven't done your income statement, and you can't do that, and so on and so forth. So you have to prepare these in the order. So if you go back to that slide, I forget what number it is, I want to say slide 5 with the Ausdre and the preparation order. We start at the bottom and we work our way up. Okay, very important that you keep that in mind. We do our income statement first, then we do our statement of retained earnings, and last but not least, we do our balance sheet. Now, that's all fine and dandy that you understand the order, but you need to know what accounts go on each one of those statements. So then we're back to the Ausdre thing about knowing what goes on where. And if you don't remember that, please refresh your memory on the first lecture. I believe it's the September 11th lecture. So please go back to that one and double check that you should know. Some other key points to keep in mind. Anything with the word receivable is an asset. Anything with the word payable is a liability. Okay? Revenue accounts can have all different types of names. You could have services earned, fees earned, sales, could just be called revenue. Just think about it. Like I've said to you time and time again already with some of these lectures, the more that you attempt to make this course related to your personal life, the better off you'll be. So if you can relate something to, like I gave you guys the example of the parties where you earned more money at the door than what you spent buying the beer. Well, that was net income. If you didn't make a lot of money at the door and you spent too much money on liquor and you didn't even cover the cost of the liquor, then you probably have a net loss. Okay? So that's the interrelations of these financial statements. It's important. So 13 and 14 talks about the two sets, the income statement to the statement of retained earnings, and slide 14 talks about the retained earnings statement to the balance sheet. Now, slides 15, if you look at slide 15, this is what we call a chart of accounts. This has all different types of accounts here. You can see receivable, payable, cash, expense, payable, revenue, so on and so forth. This, if you'd like to, your homework assignment is going to have some of these for you to do too, which your homework assignment has already been posted. So this is going to be a prequel to your instructions for your homework. Take a look at these. The first thing I would do if I was you or I was working on this problem is I would go ahead and classify the accounts. Okay, accounts receivable is an asset. So I would put an A next to the receivable, and then I would put a BS. And that doesn't stand for bull, you know what? That stands for balance sheet. The next one's accounts payable. Well, payable, I know that's a liability. That would go on my balance sheet. Cash, asset, balance sheet. Commissions, expense. Well, the word expense, obviously, that's an expense, and that would go on my income statement. Commissions payable, there's that word payable again, so that would be a liability. Commission sales revenue. Okay, well, there's your revenue account right there, $450,000. There's your revenue. Common stock, well, that's part of your stockholders' equity, which goes on your balance sheet. Dividends goes on your statement of retained earnings, and that's dividends. So that's what I would do as far as if my best advice for when you guys get problems like this. So if you move to slide 16, you can take a look at this, and this is the example problem, and this is one for you to follow when you're doing the problems for homework this weekend. Again, take a look at the top. We have our Bauer Realty Inc. income statement for the year ending. We have revenue. There's your revenue account. You see how it's listed there. If you go back to 15, our revenue account is commission sales revenue, $450,000. Take a look at your income statement on 16, $450,000. Pay close attention. Here's all your expenses. They're listed. Again, the expenses are not listed in any particular order. So as long as you have them all listed, that's fine. This is partly the reason why I had you do that first homework assignment where I had you go ahead and actually add up all your assets, all your revenue, all your expenses and stuff like that. I actually had you add all those numbers up for that very reason. Okay? Keep in mind, income tax expense is the one expense that you do not add in the normal expense category. You put it down towards the bottom, and you'll see where it's listed down below. Follow these slides as your template to work with. You can also use the Willow Corporation, the other ones that are there. You can use either one of these as your templates to work from. You've got slide 17, which goes into your statement of retained earnings. Again, look and follow where these numbers are coming from. Again, December 31st, 2012 retained earnings of $35,300. That came off the chart of accounts on slide 15. Once you're doing that statement, you take the ending from last year, which is the same as the beginning of this year. You add your net income or loss. So you'll see that on slide 17, we added $81,250. Well, that came from slide 16. Third line on the retained earnings statement is a subtotal. Whenever you see a total or see the word total or subtotal, you're going to add. So 35 and 81 came out to the 116. Then the next line says less. The word less means you're going to subtract. Well, less dividends. That comes off of slide 15, and you'll see that our dividends was $40,000. So if you subtract the $40,000 from that, you come out to $76,550, which gives us our ending for this year. Keep in mind to take a look at your two dates on slide 17. The top one is 2012. The bottom one is 2013. We are working on 2013's income statement or statement of retained earnings. So keep that in mind. Pay close attention to your dates. There's one thing that's bad about accounting. If you're not good with detail, you've got to start being a little better with detail. I will give you this example, and some of you guys are going to think that I'm freaking crazy. But back in the day when I worked in an accounting office, my boss was a pretty nice guy. He was, for the most part, he was one of my Little League coaches when I was a kid, so I've known him all my life. He recruited me before I even graduated from New Paltz with my bachelor's working in accounting. And I remember working on a company's books one day, and I had printed off the balance sheet for a company, and we were off by a penny. Now, for you and I, just getting out of college, we're like, shit, penny, that's nothing. What are we worried about? It's only a penny. I'll give you the penny. And that was about 3:30 in the afternoon. We finished work at 4, and he sent me home. We came back the next day, and he says to me first thing in the morning, 8 o'clock, he goes, Brian, did you finish up whatever company it was? It was like PN Alarm or something, some alarm company. And I said, no, we were still off the penny. He goes, well, you better go find it. We need to finish it. So he sent me to my office to find a penny. Well, 10:30 came around. I still had not found that penny. 12 o'clock came around. We leave for lunch. I still had not found that penny. I went into his office at 1:30 and said, his name was Guy. I said, Guy, I can't find this penny. I said, I'll just give you the damn penny. I don't really care. I said, I cannot find this penny. Do you know he paid me, 7 hours looking for a penny to prove a point? Now, at that time, I was getting paid, I think, like $16 an hour or something. But he paid me, 6 hours at $16 an hour to look for one stinking penny. Now, granted, when he grabbed a hold of the paperwork at 3:45 later that afternoon, he found it quicker than the day is long. And that's the unfortunate part about it, is that it took him no time to find it, but I never found it. He found it. But he proved a point to me that day that no matter what, in accounting, you have to be detail-oriented. You have to pay attention to these things. So just to give you an idea of what it feels like, that's how it feels. It sucks. So just keep that in mind. Sometimes I found that working with lists of accounts like this on slide 15 or whatever it is there. Yeah. I found just a simple ruler usually helped, because sometimes you guys are going to transpose numbers, you'll mix numbers up, things like that. So just pay attention. The first thing I want to give you some advice now, as this is going to be the moving into your homework assignment that is posted on Vanco now. First thing you should do if you get to your balance sheet and you don't balance is to verify all your numbers. And what I mean by that is double check that every number that you have listed on your income statement, on your retained earnings statement, and on your balance sheet are the same numbers that they were supposed to be. I find 9 out of 10 times somebody copies down the wrong number. They put the wrong number in. The other thing that happens quite a bit is sometimes you, no offense, don't pay enough attention to when you add your numbers together, and you accidentally put in a wrong number when you're doing some type of addition or totaling something. So one thing I mentioned to most of my classes is, as a business owner, I'm always going to the bank and making deposits and things like that. I don't go to the bank with a deposit unless I've double checked it twice. There's very few times, and one of the tellers at the bank was a former student of mine, and she'll tell you that when I go to the bank, I could go to the bank with 300 checks, and I will add them up twice to get the same number. Sometimes I end up adding things up 4 or 5 times because I'm getting a different number, but I always add everything twice. And that goes back to when I was in the accounting world. My boss, whenever we had to add up totals, we had the calculators with the piece of paper on them that came out, and literally you added it up twice and you ripped your tape off like it was a receipt tape, and you stapled it to your paperwork so that he could see that you verified that number twice. So those are some of the keys that I want you to pay attention to when you're doing it, because some of you guys are going to just kind of haphazardly start trying to do these statements, and then you're going to not get the right answer, and you're going to get to the balance sheet and it's not going to balance. And the one thing that bothers me more in this world, and my wife is great at this, is when you get to an obstacle, instead of trying to, okay, take a breather, take a minute, let's figure it out. A lot of people have these mental blocks where they just shut down and throw their arms up in the air. And if I was in class right now, I'd be like I'd throw the dry erase marker, like I'd just drop it, be like, oh, it doesn't work, I don't give a crap, and just walk away. That's not going to work in the real world. Whether you're doing accounting work or you're doing any other degree that you guys are doing, you guys have to learn to adjust, adapt, and overcome. And taking that extra couple minutes to do your work and double checking it not only will reinforce and help you throughout your college career, but it will help you in the real world. Employers are looking for people that are willing to, if you make a mistake, own up to it. If you make a mistake, try to find your mistake, fix your mistake. Those are things that are important. Those are things that our employers are going to look for in the real world, and that, sometimes it's lost in the shuffle that you guys don't realize. And I understand it took a lot. Trust me, I was a college student too. I lived on campus and partied and all the fun stuff that you guys unfortunately are not getting to do right now with the COVID situation. But, remember, you guys are paying for your education. You guys are paying for us to teach you how to become responsible, employable adults. And the hope and pray that when you guys all finish your college careers, that you guys leave your college, whether you move on to get a master's degree or a bachelor's degree, or if you're just here for a 2-year degree, whatever degree you're going to get, we just hope that you guys leave this college with an education, and you not necessarily make us proud, but you go out and make yourselves proud and get that job that you want. My goal is hearing that you guys all make 6 figures in 5 years, and that you're doing great, and so on and so forth. I can't tell you how many times I go into the gas station in town and I see a former student, and I'm like, hey, what's up? And he's like, hey, what are you doing? I just happened to run into a kid who graduated last year. who's now in Long Island owning his own insurance agency. He started up his own insurance agency. Seems to be doing well. You know, the only thing that I hope is that he continues to do the right thing and does well. Why? Because we want to see you guys succeed. Now, remember, you're paying for college. You're paying to do this. So we're here to try to help you through that. But we need you guys to do your part. And your part is to study and do the best that you possibly can. Ask your questions. I say this all the time in my classes also. If you have a question about something and you're not going to raise your hand or you're not going to point out to email your teacher about the question, I will guarantee you that there's probably 3 other people in your class that have the same question but won't ask it, would rather struggle through. It could be as simple as just a 2-word answer that could get you guys through a problem. So don't be afraid to ask your questions. In my class or any other class, it's imperative that you do that. We're here to teach you. We're here to help you. We're here to help guide you through this. Okay? If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. Okay? Now that brings me to the homework assignment. Your homework assignment is listed on Vanco. It's going to be due on Tuesday. Please, again, you can do it on the computer. You could do it on Excel. You could take a picture of it and email it to me. All I'm asking for you guys to do is to make sure that you give it enough time and you practice and you look at what it's asking you to do. Read the directions to the questions. Okay? It may seem like it's a long assignment, but we haven't done that much so far this semester. And the more assignments, and unfortunately online learning stinks when it comes to assignments. Trust me, it takes longer for us to grade stuff. It takes longer for us to upload stuff if we have problems. I have 2 kids that are remote learning from the school here. So most of my day is sitting through Zoom meetings for 8th grade and 5th grade, which, no offense, is no fun. Especially when my oldest son is taking Spanish and he cannot stand it. And I actually know quite a bit of Spanish, enough to probably as much as his teacher does. But it's tough when you're just, trying to get through these things. So take your time, get your homework through. And if you have questions, email me. For those of you, again, get the homework done, listen to your slides, go back to your slides, go back to your lectures. Your slides are imperative. Okay, so with that being said, I'm going to sign off from this, and I'm going to get next week's lectures going here so that I can continue the ball rolling and hopefully try to get myself ahead as I'm getting ready to start getting your homework assignments to grade. All right, so keep up the good work with the masks and the social distancing. I'm happy to report that you guys are shocking not only myself, but probably most of the administration and the public here in Delhi. You guys are doing a really good job, and I'd like to really just, again, thank you again with that. We really didn't expect you guys to make it more than probably a month before you were going to be heading home because of outbreaks. And to sit here and look at our dashboard and see that there's maybe, 8 total cases or 6 or something like that, is a real testament to you guys doing what you need to do. So keep that in mind, all right? And look forward to your emails, and I will email you another email later on, just letting you know where we stand for the day. Signing off for Chapter 1. Bye-bye.